Intern and J. Stevens, watching documentaries so you don't have to. 104.7 The Cave.
What's going on, Mike the Intern? Jay Stevens in the studio. This is Dark Side of the Stream, episode 234. Tyler, are you trying to grow a mustache?
I just haven't shaved yet.
Okay.
Tyler's becoming a man.
It's kind of looking like he's got a mustache going.
Yeah.
You should rock that. I think you do
I don't
pretty
know
good.
if it's a total mustache. It's
No, he just needs a shave, but I think...
Dude, just go for like
Come
the
on,
Hitler.
come on,
just
come on
make
here.
it like
Let's
Hitler,
break the fourth.
dude.
Let's break the fourth wall. Let's let people vote. Come on
you're
here.
we're gonna see
Yeah,
Tyler
we're
for
gonna
the
see
first
Tyler.
time on
Just
camera.
get right here. Just
Those
get right
listening
here.
at home, you need to watch the video if
Turn
you're listening
around
on the
and
radio.
squat down so everyone can see.
There's
Should
him.
Tyler have a mustache? Yes or
Click
no?
yes or no. Like and subscribe.
Probably by the time you actually vote, he will have a mustache because I'm going to pester him about this. But if that is the case, by next week, you're going to see it. Thanks, Tyler.
Dude, our
right.
viewership just shot up with young girls with him in the picture.
So this week was Jay's pick. It's the Tylenol murders on Netflix. Pretty crazy story.
I remember it when it went down. I remember it.
Before we get into it, it's actually the fall before I was born.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I remember. I was a kid, man.
I called my mom and I was like, "You probably were freaking the hell out about this," and she's like, "Oh my god, yeah." But anyway, are you? Because some people, they like Tylenol. Some people like aspirin. Some people like ibuprofen. Where do you lie?
Back then it was Tylenol, but now I'm an Advil guy.
You're an Advil guy.
Hashtag not sponsored.
Why?
I don't know. It just seems to be the best. I just feel like that one's a good one for me.
I'll tell you right now, if you can get your hands on them, ibuprofen 800s. That's the way.
I think
800s.
the missus has stuff
Those
like
are
that.
those are I think prescribed, but
I
these are
eat
the best.
I eat 4 Advils when I have to, not like every day or anything, but
See, that's the thing.
when I feel like
if
I
they did
have to.
ibuprofen 800s, you wouldn't have to take 4
that's
ibuprofens. You
basically
just
I'm
take the
doing
one,
4,
and it's the same deal.
Basically, I'm
but
doing
the
4.
other thing is, I'm not a big. I don't like opiates or anything. Even when this was years ago.
No,
I had a root canal. They were like, "Here's a bunch of hydrocodones." I was like, "I'm not taking
I hate
them."
that stuff.
They're like, "You won't take them?" I was like, "No, they make me sick. I can't."
Yeah, I feel lazy.
And he's like, "Well, what do you want?" I was like, "Ibuprofen 800s, bro." And good to go.
It's good for swelling. So I do it a lot of times on recoveries from my voice.
Just check out
after
ibuprofen
like a lot of
sometime.
shows.
We'll get you converted. Not sponsored, by the way.
Yeah, we can be sponsored.
So anyway, it starts off with a story about a man who basically, a healthy guy in his 20s, collapses and dies. The family then goes to have a wake kind of at their house, a memorial.
Dude.
His brother and wife collapse and his brother dies. His wife becomes completely brain dead.
They're like, what's going on
And then
here?
a slew of deaths like this, including a 12-year-old girl, all happen in the Chicago Metro. So now they're freaking out and they're like, oh my God. Well, immediately out of the gate, Johnson & Johnson comes out and says, not us.
Well, back to step one. They
to-
finally figured out these people all took Tylenol before this happened.
After the second brother died, they noticed and then they investigated.
And then they figured out
see the cyanide on the
is
capsules.
on there, yeah.
They all thought it was regular strength or extra strength Tylenol, but then in one case there was a woman who took regular strength that had extra strength pills put into it, and they didn't even notice it because it was a small. I mean, it was a difference of color. One was gray, one was red. We'll get all this down the road, but those security packs and all that stuff that we have on bottles are thanks to this.
Safety seals and all that stuff that you have to pull out and it's all because of this,
So it's a crazy story because you have some characters that are involved in it that look like on paper they could be the person.
Yeah.
Specifically one guy.
The guy from here, the guy from St. Louis
from
or
Kansas
whatever.
City.
Yeah,
Which
Kansas
there's
City.
a very, very tight Kansas City. And we
connection in this whole thing.
We'll focus on him next, that first suspect, and then a couple other suspects when we come back. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. It's Dark Side of the Stream, episode 234, the Tylenol murders on Netflix. So early on in the first episode and into the second one, they focus in on a guy who they kind of figured that it may be him based on
he wrote a letter.
the letter that Johnson & Johnson received that basically said, I want money, send it to this account. They go to that guy who owes the account. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but there's
weird,
this dude that I had the outs with. His wife used to work with me. I had to let her go, and he's been really mad at me about it, yada, yada, yada.
And not to judge a book by its cover, but the dude's a weird dude.
Oh, when you get into the whole
weird
thing,
looking
very,
and weird
very
talking,
weird
yeah.
dude. So then they go and find out about this guy. They try to locate him. He has since vacated his apartment in Chicago.
Yeah.
They can't find him. So they start running his picture on the news. Enter a police officer from the Kansas City Metro who
Says,
I know that dude. That's not his name. It's a different name. And he's wanted for
Shady.
extortion in
Right.
Kansas City. Well,
Right.
then you learn that this guy had been a bookkeeper and he had gotten friends with an elderly man who then disappears. He is found dismembered
Chopped
in
up
the
in his attic.
And then they can't prove that this guy has killed this guy, but they can prove that he extorted him because after he was dead, he tried to cash a check, and then they put him on the most wanted list. Well, then he relocates to Chicago under a different
Jeez,
alias,
man.
and all this stuff happens. Well, the police in Kansas City are like, this is the guy.
Yeah, done deal. Case
This is the
closed.
dude.
Right.
If anyone was capable of doing something like this, it would be this guy. And by the way, we've been after him for extortion for years and years and years. Well, they end up catching up with him, and they can't charge him with the Tylenol murders. They can't charge him with the murder of the elderly man in Kansas City. But what they can charge him with is extortion. For the letter that he wrote to Johnson & Johnson. They give him the max, which is 10 years, lock and key, right?
Cool.
Well,
Case
then,
closed, right?
Well, no, because then another guy kind of comes out, and because of a bar owner who said, you know what, I think you got the wrong guy, it was actually this dude who was trying to do it. And he, on his own, was a wild character in the sense that he was kind of an anarchist. He had a bunch of, he had cyanide in his house.
he had cyanide,
He obviously, well, but when they went to go search him, he didn't have anything. But they found a lot of things like the reading materials that he had and all these other things that he had.
Looked a little sketchy.
He looked like he could have been the dude, but again, they didn't have any actual evidence that would have tied him to anything, the Tylenol murders at all. So they ended up having to let him go. He then, I don't know why you're laughing because this is crazy. He then gets so mad, he goes back to the bar where the guy, he knows this bar owner has like pointed a finger and said, you did it. He went and killed somebody. Wasn't the bar owner, just some random dude.
Yeah, it wasn't even the guy. He ended up killing a different guy.
So they throw this
Another one chalked on the Tylenol murders.
They throw this in to the whole Tylenol murders because of the tie that this happened. Which
wasn't while the guy was locked up, the other guy, Lewis, was locked up. Then another
and
case.
in the late 80s,
more case,
someone else died.
Yeah.
And this time...
So wait a minute, this guy's still in jail.
What Johnson & Johnson had to hope for was that this would only happen in one area because since it involved two different factories, it only involved one area. So then it was some monsters do it. Some monsters do it. Well, the daughter of one of the victims is saying that's not the case, and we'll talk about that next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. It's Dark Side of the Stream, episode 234, discussing the Tylenol murders. So you have two individuals who really could have possibly been. One that definitely probably didn't do it.
Guilty.
The other guy, Lewis, looking like it. But before you go, hey, man, because the police in Chicago, the FBI more specifically, were like, this is the dude. And they put everything they could to prove that this guy was the guy. The daughter of one of the victims in the 82 cases comes out and she's involved in this documentary. She goes, no. I don't think that it was anybody. I think this was all Johnson & Johnson the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, then you start looking at that perspective. And out of the gate, Johnson & Johnson claimed that there was no cyanide in any of their factories whatsoever.
A lot of stories didn't add up there.
But then the medical officer in Chicago goes on a press thing right after that, and he goes, so I asked them, do you have cyanide? No. Well, then I asked one of the people, the managers on location, well, we actually do have cyanide, but it's not it's in a locked room.
It's locked up where you can't get to it.
Come to find out, it wasn't in a locked room at all. Any employee could have had access to it, on top of the fact that it was within 500 feet away from where it was being processed. So now you have to
have a history of getting sued for huge amounts as well.
That these guys may have actually had contaminated product out there. Which, again, when this happened,
bad press.
They pulled back every single tablet, every single bottle and box, and destroyed them all.
Oh, they didn't test them all? No, they destroyed them all.
Why would you do that?
Shady.
Why wouldn't you test them?
Shady.
Don't know, but they didn't. And now nobody has to, because now the FBI has to do two
Yeah,
things.
dude.
They have to say, you know what? We were focusing on this Lewis guy for a really long time. We thought he was the guy. While we should have been also focusing on the possibility that this was the actual company, but instead of doing that, we just gave them
Too
all the
much
evidence.
money,
We
yeah.
trusted them to search and
let
investigate
them do their
themselves,
own investigation,
and then we let them
dude.
destroy all the product.
Yeah, yeah. And
I'm not going to say what I think
medical
because
companies,
I just, at the same time, like,
have a bad history.
look at the facts. And while
spoiler alert, the thing is still not solved, the case.
at all.
No.
And,
No one knows
and
what
Lewis
happened or
passed
who
away
did it.
before this thing came out.
Yeah.
And
They interviewed the Lewis guy for this documentary, which
and-
was really crazy.
the theory that he could have done it for the perspective that his daughter, who had a Johnson & Johnson valve put in her heart, which failed and killed her when she was a child, and this was all to get back at them.
vengeance.
I could also buy that
I could buy
theory
it too. I know. I could buy all the theories. That's the problem here.
But the fact that goes back to the FBI would have to go out and admit that we were wrong
They
in
dropped the ball.
the
Yep.
way we looked at this investigation and focused in on one guy. We were wrong in allowing one of the people, the organizations that should have been a listed suspect of this, to investigate themselves and then
Yeah.
destroy all the
Yeah,
evidence.
yeah.
That is a huge meatball out there.
It's a
huge
fumble.
meatball.
It's
But you know what?
These
It's
drug
the American
makers have
dream,
bad
baby. And if you
history.
got enough money, you can do whatever the hell you want in this
Guess so.
country. Proven time and time again. We'll be back with our thoughts on this documentary and reviews next on 104.7 The Cave. Jay Stevens, Mike the Intern, back in the studio one more time. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 234. It was the Tylenol murders. So how many little white and red pills would you give this thing?
3.
I'd go 4. I thought,
three.
like I said in the beginning, when you get to it, I was like, what am I going to... There were a lot of pieces of this thing that...
it was very short and easy to watch.
And
I felt.
just to know, because of like what we were discussing in the previous thing about how this could have been all through the corporation. You know how much money that corporation spends in advertising dollars alone? They're probably
Well,
one of the largest
yeah.
organized
Well, this was the whole-
advertisers globally in the world.
This was the whole
and
thing
the
with
reason
the-
why that never gets brought up in
Yeah.
the news.
Well, same
I'll
with
let you figure that out
Same
for
with
yourself.
all the COVID stuff, how that ended up being so fraudulent. They spend so much money that everything was hush hush, man. You know.
It's talked about. So again, I give it more because 4 at least, just because I learned a lot.
Yeah,
in
I
it.
did
and
like
there were
the
things about it that
character
I
from
was.
Missouri.
Yeah, dude, Lewis, man, he was a strange dude.
He was a strange
ultimately,
dude.
I think he could have been either him or it was because what destroys their Johnson & Johnson's story is that in '86, 4 years later, it happens again. And this is with the packaging intact.
Yeah.
So then
The world will never know, I
then
guess,
tell
man.
me how that worked.
The world will never know, I guess.
We got a magician on our hands. You know what I mean? That's crazy. Anyway, as always, we got to pick next. There is a crazy case going on right now. They may have caught him by the time we do this. I don't know or not. But as of right now, as we sit here, this guy is on the run. They did a documentary about him called Devil in the Ozarks. A couple years. It's on Max. We're going to watch it and
Okay.
discuss it. But he dressed up like a police officer, and they just let him walk right out
So
of
wait
the
a
gate.
minute. They did a documentary on this guy a few years ago.
They
he
locked
was,
him up.
and he's been in
The
jail.
guy locked him up, and now
he
he's
just got
Yeah,
out
just
like
took
last
out.
week or something
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
He's roaming free.
Yep.
Can we get him in here
You
in the
might
studio
find him
next
at a
week?
Machine Gun Symphony
Let's
concert.
get him in the studio next week.
I'm not going to your show.
We'll put him behind this O so he won't know his face will be disguised.
As always, you can watch us do this live 9 a.m. on Thursdays on Facebook or YouTube. That's when I play during my show. Jay plays it at 6 during his show, or you can always listen to it as a podcast on our 104.7 The Cave app. I am Mike the Intern. That's
I'm
Jay
Jay
Stevens reminding you
We
watch
watch
movies, so you
documentaries,
don't have to. It's Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Yeah, it was good.
Dude's running around the Ozarks right now.
He's probably somewhere in the Buffalo National Forest, which is like good luck.
Good place to hide.
The guy knows how to survive.
Sasquatch-
If the guy
Sasquatch
knows how to
country.
survive on his own, you'll never find him. Like it's like literally a cut across the entire state. It's like the sun. If you put sunglasses on.